for this week's prepping data, we're trying out the new functions of percentage difference from and lookup as well. So let's take a look at the data that we're looking at. Okay, so first of all, I've done a wildcard union in the first step. So let's take a look at just one of the tables. If I just bring out April, for example, then we can see in this clean step that we've just got 5 fields here of bike type, store, model, sales, and order date. So we can see that our order date is missing the actual month that is ordered in. It's just got the day of the week, then the day and the year, and then it's got the month name in the table name. So we can just check another random file. So let's check February, for example, and it looks like it's got the same field names, so we can go ahead and do that wildcard union. So to set that up, we can just go to tables in the input step and say union multiple tables, and you can see that it's got those 12 tables here, so all of the months of the year. And when we hit apply, then all of the tables that get included are highlighted over on the left hand side, and we just get 2 new fields called table names and file paths. I say we get 2 new fields. Actually, we've got about 15 new fields. But you can see, for example, bike type is here, it's also here and here. So there are just some different naming conventions in the different months in the data. So we'll fix that in the next few steps. But I'm just going to get rid of these offshoots, these steps that we already have elsewhere, and just take a look at that data here. So we've got 2,000 rows with those all those months worth of data. So I did deselect in this input step the file path field, but I did keep the table names, but I renamed them in the input step. So just double clicked here to rename the table names to month, just so that we all know what we're looking at basically. So if we take a look at the month there, then you'll see that we've got all 12 months. So it looks like all the data is coming through as we'd expect. We do have this comments one that came through. We can just get rid of this field as it is null. So we can just click on that and say remove. But then we want to sort out all of these fields which we need to merge together. So I find that easier to do when it's in the metadata view. So using this configuration up here to sort that out. So if I've got my bike type and my bike type star and my bike type here, then I can just holding down Control select all of those and say merge fields. And that's a semi-manual process. I could in the profile pane do that as well. If I found, for example, bike type and bike type, then I can go drop that on top of it to merge it. But then obviously I can only do them 2 at a time rather than doing 3 at a time. It's up to you. How you want to do those merges. They'll all kind of get you to the same point. But once you've merged all the fields together, you'll hopefully have 6 fields where you've got the order date, sales, model, store, bike type, and then those table names, that month field. So now we can go ahead and make our dates. So with the order date, I'm just going to split that up. So split those values, do a custom split. We don't actually need the day of the week that it was sold on. So we can just, using the comma as our separator, choose to do the last 2 fields. That's how I chose to do it, because when we hit split there, then you can see that we just get the day and the year, and we already have the month. So if we just rename those, then we can stick those together nice and easily. But I'm just going to get rid of those changes because we do them in the next step. So that's those 2 fields that we get there, the split 1 and split 2. We'll rename them to the day and the year. Get rid of the original order date and then create our new order date field where we literally just stick together the day, month and year with a space in between. And then once we have that field, we just translate that to be a date, because Tableau Prep is quite good at reading dates in that structure. So we translate it to be a date, remove all the unnecessary fields there. And now we've just got the 5 fields again, where we have the sales, model, store, order date, and bike type. But now our order date is actually a date, which feels much better. Next, we want to actually translate that date into fiscal quarters. So we know that Allchain's financial year starts in July. So if we go to, say, our order date field, I'll do that here. Before we go to the fiscal quarters, so I can show you. So we convert the dates to custom financial year, and we're wanting to get out our quarter numbers for when the fiscal year starts in July. So we can see that that means that the 1st of July to September, that will be our quarter one, and so on and so forth. So we convert those, and then we just rename that field to be our quarter. Now we're ready to aggregate our data, so we're just grouping by our store and our quarter and summing up those sales, nice and simple. And now we're finally ready to get onto the fun, juicy stuff. So we're going to do our percentage difference calculation. So I'll just show you how I did that. So I went to the sales field, went to the menu, did create calculated field, and you'll notice in 23.2 there are a lot more options now. So we've got percent difference from, and moving calculation there. So we're going to do a percent difference from, and it will look very similar to how it looks for difference from. So let's do that now. So you'll see that when we bring it in, it looks like everything's gone wrong, everything's erroring. But don't worry, we just need to tell it what to group by. So we're going to group it for each store. We're going to order it using the quarter. And then you can see that now it's doing a percent difference from, and it's just doing it by default from the previous value. So it's taking last quarter sales and this quarter sales, and it's doing this quarter minus last quarter divided by the last quarter. So you can see that calculation very visibly, which is really nice. I could make this go a bit differently, have it do 2 quarters away or 3 quarters away, so on and so forth. But I'm just going to make that be 1. We could also go to the next value as well. There's that option there as well. But then we've already done that. You can see it's kind of the same as in this column here. So I'm just going to hit done and get rid of that percentage difference from, and then we've just multiplied it by 100 and rounded it to 1 decimal place so that it's a bit tidier to read. But if I was going to get this data set into Tableau Desktop, then I wouldn't have done that step, so that it could work as a percentage in Tableau Desktop. So the next step is that we want to do some analysis to see what the trend is of our sales. Are they generally increasing? Are they generally decreasing? Are there any problem quarters? What's going on? So that we can classify our stores into those different categories. So what we want to do is we want to say from quarter 4, we want to go ahead and grab this value and put it on the row next to it. And then we also want to grab this value from Q2 and put it on the row next to it, so that we have all the values for Q3 and Q4 and Q2 all on one line. So we're going to use the lookup function in order to do that. So if I go to the next step, then I'll show you how I've written that lookup function. So it's written very similarly to how the table calc is written for the percentage difference. So if I show you the syntax there, where we're partitioning on the store, so that's grouping by the store, we're ordering by a certain field, in this case the quarter, and then we're calling the lookup. So we're going to do a similar thing here. So let's go ahead and look at that syntax. So we're partitioning on the store. As I said, we're ordering by the quarter in ascending order, and we're looking up that percentage difference quarter on quarter. If you want the syntax for this as well, if you just search for the lookup function in the box over here, then you'll see that you have an example there. You don't have the partition around the edge, but hopefully that's familiar from stuff like the rank calculation, which has been around for quite a while. So we're just getting the previous value there. And then in the next one, we're getting the value from 2 rows up. So that'll be our Q2. So we've got the basically percentage difference here. This value comes from there, and then this value comes from there, up here. So now we can make some comparisons. So from the challenge, we can see how we're being asked to categorize these sales. So for example, in this one, we would say that they're generally growing, but there's a dip in Q3. So let's look at how I did that. So I actually used the sign function. So if you don't know what the sign function is, let me just find it in the description so you can see it on the screen as well. It's basically going to return a positive 1 if the value is positive, a 0 if it's a 0, and a negative 1 if the number is negative. So first of all, what I do is I add together the sign from those 3 columns of those percentages. So basically this is going to be, for York in Q4, it's going to be 1 minus 1 plus 1. So because I've got positive, negative, positive, that's what's going to happen with that calculation. So that's going to make 1 for my sign there. And then I'm going to calculate the trend of this data. So this is quite a long calculation with a lot of ifs in it. I probably didn't need to split it up quite as much as I did into different nested if statements, but it just made more sense to me with the way it was working. So first of all, I'm checking if the absolute sign is 3, so whether it's positive or negative 3. And then if it's positive 3, it's going from strength to strength. If it's negative 3, it's going from bad to worse. Next up, basically the only options for my sign is that all 3 are positive, all 3 are negative, or I've got 2 positive and 1 negative, or 2 negative and 1 positive. So that'll either be positive 1 or negative 1. So those are the only options that I need to check. So I'll just go through the if 2 are positive and 1 is negative, and then hopefully the logic follows through for the rest for you. So if I've got just 1 negative, then I just need to check which one is negative, basically. So is it the Q4 percentage difference, is it the Q3 percentage difference, or the Q2 percentage difference? And then I can classify it as such. Okay, and then that's my nice long if statement done. I've done most of the hard work, but actually I've still only got my trend showing on the Q4 row. So to get it to show on the other 3 rows for that store, all I need to do is do a fixed level of detail where I group by the store and I say the max trend. And that will just get rid of those nulls and replace them with the same value that is in the trend field. And then I can get rid of the trend. And that's the challenge. So I really hope that you enjoyed using those new functions as much as I have, and thanks very much for watching.